Okay, so in this video I'm going to create a database in this form, and I'm just going to take you through the steps that are required to do that. Now, I'm going to use the help sheet, which is this help sheet, the using a database help sheet, but also I'm going to put all my code into a database class. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a class called database. Oh, and by the way, you'll have to excuse me, I'm in the middle of a music lesson here, so I do apologise for the fact that you might be able to hear a piano plinkety plonketying. Right, so here we go. So I'm going to create a class, I'm going to call it database. Okay, and then really, let's just get rid of that because I don't know what that means. Really, it's a case of copying code across. Now, a couple of things I'm going to need. I need to use system.io. I'm also going to need to use the system.data. Oops. And I'm also going to need to use system.data. Is it that one there? OLEDB. I think it's that one. Right, now, a couple of things that I need in my database class. I'm going to need a constructor, which is just going to be called database, for initializing my values, which I'll sort out in a sec. And secondly, I'm going to need a destructor in this particular instance, database. And that gets called when my database object gets destroyed. So let's just go back to the help sheet and pull out the bits that we need. So the first thing is my connection string. Okay. Now I'm going to make that as a. Oh, hang on, sorry, that needs to be public. Okay. So I'm going to make that private because I don't want people outside of this class seeing the connection string, so that's for me, and I've literally just copied it, so it's going to create something called mydb. Okay, so that's going to be what my database is called. So the next thing is I'm going to create a new method here, and it's going to be called initialize, and this is going to initialize and create my tables in my database the first time round. Now, just as a quick refresher, my database is going to look like this. I'm just going to have one table to start with. It's going to be called customers, and I'm going to have an ID, which is going to be my primary key. I'm going to have a name, which is going to be varchar 200, and I'm going to have an age. Okay, and here's some example bits of data. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to just go into here, and I'm just going to copy and paste this. Okay, oh my goodness, someone's executing a violin by the sounds of it. Right, okay, so let's just kind of put this together. So the first thing I need to do is just get rid of that. Just put that over there, and I'm just going to get rid of the toolbox so we've got a little bit more room. Brilliant. Now, so this is going to create my table, and obviously as I kind of build this up, I'm going to put some more create tables here, but for the time being I'm just going to create this. Now this is all I've done, okay? And the place where I'm going to actually sort of do this is I'm going to just see if this works. So I'm going to go into my form, okay? And I'm just going to double click on the command window here and use the form load, okay? So I'm going to declare a database class. So here we go, database. Call it database, and it's a new database. Okay, and now I'm just going to go database dot initialize. That's all I'm going to do. And personally, I like to run these as a break by putting a breakpoint in. So let's just run this and see if it works. So F5, so F9 to create a breakpoint, F5 to run, and then I'm going to step into this function using F11. So I've stepped inside initialize. Does the file exist? Well, it shouldn't exist, so I'd hope that it'll come down here. Okay, so create a new catalogue, great. Create the connection string, and let's just check. So the connection string is that, which is defined up here. So it's got that from there, so that's great. And now we're opening the connection, so that's good. Oh, and I've got a got an exception, it's not supported. Right, okay, so I need to just go away and fix that. So give me one moment.
Be quiet.
Right, okay, so I fixed that problem. It's to do with installing the right version of the package. I'm on 2022 here, and just as a little quick thing, what I found is that on my system, the wrong package is there. Now the way that I got around there is I went to Tools and NU Package Manager and went to the console, and I installed not 7 but 6.0.0. So you need to basically type this. So NuGet install package system data. Press enter, it'll install it. So that sort of worked for me. Right, I'm going to run it. Here we go. So I'm going to step in with F11 and keep stepping along. And so now everything's fine. So there's my SQL code creating my ID, name, age, and then setting the primary key to the ID. Do a little execute, do the close, and everything's perfect. So I'm just going to close that. And now if we go into the folder, which is here, there's my database. Let's open it up in Access and just have a little look. Enable content, and there's my people with ID, name, age. Okay, so that's kind of that. Okay, now there is one thing I want to just do here, which is going to make my whole world a whole lot easier. Now, we only ever need to do this once. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut this out like this. Okay, so every time I create a database now, okay, we've got a cat. And I'm just thinking, what else do we need to do? There we go, the connection. We need to open the connection. Okay. And now good stuff is about to happen. So this is my constructor. So what's going to happen? Every time I create a database object, it's going to create a catalog. It's going to connect to that using the connection string. And it's going to create a database connection. Now we need this connection. So I'm just going to take that out and I'm going to make, whoops. Apologies for the background noise, but hey ho. And do you know what? I'm going to call this, I'm going to make it a little bit nicer. So I'm going to call it connection. Okay. So the connection is a new connection using the connection string, and we're going to open it. Now, when we close the database, when the database gets destroyed, it's going to do the close. So when we create a database, it's going to do this automatically, and when we close the database, or when the database disappears, it's going to close it. Okay. Now let's just check here. So the connection is equal to the connection, and we don't need to do this anymore. Now, as you can see now, this function is looking pretty small, and that's a good thing. We want it to be small. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my form, okay, and I'm going to just show you how all the various little bits of this fit together. And just to make sure that we end up in all of them, I'm going to make sure, put breakpoint here, and I'm going to put breakpoint here in the destructor, just so we can see everything that's happening. So when the form loads, it's going to create a database and it's going to initialize it, and that's all it's going to do. And I just need to go in here, make sure doesn't exist. There we go. Right. Here we go. Run. Okay. So straight away I'm into my database and I'm just a little bit unsure. Oh, okay. I didn't put a breakpoint there. That's fine. So it's come here and it's come to my database, and now we're just coming down here. So it's creating a connection string, opening it up. Okay. So we've now got an open database, and if I look in my files, there it is. So it's created my database file. That shows that it's open. Okay. Then the next thing is we're going to initialize. So we're going to jump into the initialize with F11. Does the file exist? Ah, right. Okay. So the file already exists. So I just need, that's the only thing that I need to just take out of here. So here we go. So this gets done once. There we go. So if the file already exists, we're going to create it. Okay, otherwise, we're not going to create it. There we go. So we only do that once. So we don't even need to check now if it exists in my initialize. I've got a funny feeling that music lesson has finished. I'm going to just have to pause, so I won't be a sec, I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so I'm back. Right, here we go. Right, run. Oh, did I delete it? Oh, I can't do that. Hang on, what's going on? Right, get rid of that. Delete that. Right, let's start again. I'm going to start here. There we go, F9. Right, here we go. Last time. Right, step in. So if the file doesn't exist, create it, but do open a connection to it. Okay. Now we're going to initialize. So we're going to come in. We don't need to check if it's there because it's already open when we've done that check. Add the connection, do the command text, execute. And so now we come down here, and now let's just check that there is code in the destructor. So I'm just going to step out. So at this point here, because this thing here only exists within the scope of these two curly braces, I would expect when we go into the second curly brace, we go into the destructor. Okay, maybe it hasn't done that. I need to find out why that is. But database has ceased to exist. I think probably this has been called, perhaps, do I need to make this public? Public. Let's just see if that's a thing. Okay, so no, it's not that. Okay, I think the database probably exists anyway, but let's just have a little look, see if it's created it correctly. So here we go. There we go, yes, so it's created it absolutely perfectly, just as I wanted. So I'm now in a situation where I can start adding data, so that will be the next video. Here we go.